Lil Baby has become one of the most sought after rappers in the hip hop world ever since he dropped his debut album Harder Than Ever back in May of 2018. The 25-year-old rapper from Atlanta, Georgia has had multiple chart-topping hits such as Yes Indeed featuring Drake and even Drip Too Hard featuring Gunna, which have made him not only a multi-million-dollar recording artist, but also a certified multi-platinum artist as well. In fact, Lil Baby has gone platinum now over 10 times since the start of his career, which is quite impressive to say the least. But what makes Lil Baby's story even more astonishing is the fact that even just a few years ago, he was actually sitting in a 6x8 concrete cell in a Georgia state penitentiary at just 18 years old. Now, are you curious on how Lil Baby got himself into this situation? Well, I'm about to share some exclusive information about Lil Baby's criminal past, and due to all of this, he actually may face the rest of his life in prison if he returns there. So make sure you watch this video all the way until the end, because this could ruin Lil Baby's rap career. Make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Now, Lil Baby's first arrest took place at when he was just 12 years old. While out with some friends, Lil Baby got this genius idea to go break in and rob a house in his Atlanta neighborhood. As the crew approached the house, police actually pulled up out of nowhere and detained all of them almost immediately. After a few minutes of questioning, the police came to the conclusion that Lil Baby and friends were planning on breaking into the home, and they actually arrested them for burglary. But since Lil Baby was only 12 years old at the time, he obviously could not be booked into a county jail, so they brought him into a local juvenile detention center where he stood locked up for only 10 days. Now, when he got out, Lil Baby continued to stay involved with the streets, and what the only difference being is that he was actually less secretive about it. Before, nobody other than his friends really knew what he was up to after his arrest. Everyone, including his mother, knew about his little after-school activities. Despite being knee-deep in the streets, Lil Baby continued to attend school and claimed to be extremely smart academically. He consistently passed all of his classes, and he was actually on path to get his high school diploma. But eventually, Lil Baby got kicked out of high school due to the fact that he just kept on getting suspended throughout his entire academic career. Now, after getting kicked out, Lil Baby was planning on going to an alternative school, but he actually decided to just drop out completely, realizing he was just too old for the alternative school and he was now ready for the street game. With all of his new free time on his hands, Lil Baby ended up getting arrested multiple times during the ages 16 and 17. All of the details of these arrests seem to be sealed due to the fact that Lil Baby was still a minor at the time, but he did mention in a few interviews early on in his career, the arrests were basically all the same two things: narcotics and firearms. Now, every time that Lil Baby was arrested, he seemed to get off almost with little to no consequences, but obviously that would not last forever, as his next arrest actually left the judge fed up with him, and he even ended up sentencing Lil Baby to probation. Now, while on probation, Lil Baby stayed out of trouble for a very short period of time, but at the age of 18, he actually ended up slipping up once again, and he was sent back to jail for violating his probation. Now, this probation violation had Lil Baby facing some serious time in prison, which required him to lawyer up as soon as possible, and that did not come cheap. His first lawyer was able to cut him a deal where he would just serve 2 years in prison, but Lil Baby wouldn't be able to take that for an answer and eventually fired him to hire a new lawyer, which was actually able to land him an even better deal where he was told that he could attend a 6-month program instead of doing time in prison. Lil Baby actually ended up accepting that deal and went to the program a few days later on. After arriving to this program, Lil Baby soon found out that this program was actually intended to be a year-long ordeal instead of a 6-month deal, which he has been told. This upset Lil Baby a lot and made him feel like he was actually tricked. But he continued to give the program another chance, and just a few days later after that, he actually got into a scuffle with another program attendee, which actually led him to being kicked out of the program and then sentenced to 2 years in prison. At the prison, Lil Baby didn't really have any difficulties as you may expect for an 18-year-old to have. because he actually had cousins that were facing life sentences in the same penitentiary as he was in. Now, in addition to having some family by his side, it also probably helped that he had his 2-year sentence was one of the shortest ones out of all of the other inmates, which most likely made him feel kind of thankful that he was only going to be in there for a certain amount of time, while other inmates will maybe never see the light of day again. Now, on July 1st, 2016, Lil Baby was released from prison and returned to his mother's home in Atlanta. When he got back, Lil Baby realized that a lot of his street friends such as Marlo and Young Thug have begun rapping and were actually developing quite the buzz in the music industry. Now, while this was cool and all, Lil Baby actually had no desire to rap and planned on going back to hustling in the streets like he'd been doing his whole life. When word of his plans got around town, his old friends such as P and Coach K from Quality Control and even Young Thug actually encouraged Lil Baby to start rapping instead of going back to his old ways, as it's a very dangerous lifestyle to live. Lil Baby soon began entertaining this idea, but actually never really got started until Young Thug paid for Lil Baby's first ever studio session, and with this one studio session, Young Thug actually changed Lil Baby's life forever. Lil Baby soon began to be in the studio non-stop recording new music, and he finally dropped his first ever project titled Perfect Timing, which had features from Lil Yachty, Gunna, and of course Young Thug. This project actually brought a lot of buzz to Lil Baby, not only because the good music, but rather due to the fact that everyone discovered that this Quality Control's newest artist, and they wanted to give him a lot of love. Now, Lil Baby took full advantage of this new addition, and then soon dropped his debut album, Harder Than Ever. 2 of the tracks actually featured on the album was My Dog and Freestyle, went viral online and skyrocketed Lil Baby to mainstream success. Now, this not only allowed him to make incredible hits with his friends over at Quality Control, but also gave him the ability to link up with other top tier artists such as Drake. Now, in fact, Drake and Lil Baby's song titled Yes Indeed is currently 3 times platinum and also peaked at number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. It's also pretty cool that Gunna, who was featured on Lil Baby's first project, started to gain his own mainstream success as well around the same time as Lil Baby. Now, the two eventually went on to release an album together called Drip Harder, which the lead single Drip Too Hard peaked at actually number 4 on the Billboard Charts 100 list and even went 5 times platinum. But sadly, fast forward to February 7th, 2019, at around 6 p.m, Lil Baby was cruising around in his orange Corvette when a Georgia state trooper saw the rapper fail to signal when changing lanes. Lil Baby then proceeded to speed up and pass other vehicles kind of in a reckless manner, while a lot of pedestrians were walking about on foot. Then as soon as the state trooper got behind Lil Baby's Corvette to pull him over, Lil Baby then realized what was actually going on and then began to accelerate his car and change lanes in hopes to avoid being pulled over. That ended up not working out so well because the state trooper eventually pulled Lil Baby over, arrested him for failing to signal when changing lanes, reckless driving, attempting to flee the police. Now, Lil Baby was put back into the police cruiser and then eventually was booked into the Fulton County Jail. Lil Baby was later then released that night after posting bail for an unknown amount of money. No updates have been released to the media about his arrest, but I have a pretty good feeling that Lil Baby will most likely just have to pay a fine of some sorts and maybe even attend some type of traffic school if he does want to continue driving on public roads. Now, overall, I don't really worry too much about Lil Baby ever falling back to his old ways. He does claim that he never wants to go back to prison again and has really showed everyone that he's not only a talented music artist, but he's actually a man with extremely good work ethic as well, which I think is really good. He seems to realize actually how fortunate he is to be surrounded by already established rappers and label executives, and puts everything that he ever had into his music until he becomes one of the biggest names in hip hop. I also want to note that I don't really consider his last arrest to be anything major whatsoever, or at least nothing too major that can be compared to Lil Baby, facing a long time in prison. But Lil Baby does kind of have a pretty long list of priors when going to prison, so I do feel like if he does get locked up one more time, the judge may get fed up with him and may sentence him to a pretty long sentence, in which I don't think he's going to do too well with being locked up. But regardless of that, I wish for nothing but the best for Lil Baby, and I hope he continues to achieve massive success in the music industry. But nonetheless, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Has been District Trending, and I'm out. Peace.